As Star Trek just cleverly reversed the TNG episode that inspired Lower Decks. In a bold and subtly brilliant narrative move, Star Trek has just done something many longtime fans may not immediately notice. It reversed the core concept of Star Trek, the Next Generation's classic episode Lower Decks, the very same episode that served as the inspiration for the animated comedy series Star Trek, Lower Decks. But where the TNG installment focused on how junior officers struggle in the shadows of the senior bridge crew, this new take turns the spotlight around and lets the lower deckers define their story on their own terms, flipping the entire power dynamic in a truly Star Trek way. Let's take a closer look at how Star Trek pulled off this clever narrative inversion and why it matters so much, not just for fans of Lower Decks, but for the entire ethos of Star Trek. Revisiting Lower Decks, the TNG blueprint, first aired in 1994 during the Next Generation's 7th season. Lower Decks is one of the series' most beloved and unconventional episodes. Instead of following Captain Picard, Commander Riker, or the rest of the core crew, the episode zeroes in on a group of junior officers, Ensign Sito Jaxa, Sam Lavelle, Nurse Ogawa, and Ben the Waiter, as they navigate personal and professional challenges while hoping for promotion. The brilliance of that episode lies in how it shifts the perspective. Suddenly, we're not seeing the story from the commanding officer's chair, but from the cramped bunks and anxious whispers of those trying to live up to the impossible standards of Starfleet's best and brightest. We see how orders trickle down. We witness the emotional toll of vague performance reviews. We feel the sting of exclusion when the bridge crew withholds information for security reasons. Lower Decks was a humanizing episode portraying the gray spaces between command and execution, ambition and insecurity. Importantly, it ended on a tragic note. Ensign Sito, trying to redeem herself for past errors, is sent on a dangerous covert mission and never returns. Her death, felt most deeply by her fellow junior officers, highlights the often unseen cost of command decisions. In short, it was about the lower decks, but still filtered through the decisions made by those above. The comedy show that took that one episode and ran with it. Fast forward to 2020, when Star Trek Lower Decks premiered as an animated comedy, parodying and celebrating the entire franchise. Its elevator pitch? What if Lower Decks, but all the time? Set aboard the USS Cerritos, the series follows ensigns Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford, irreverent, overworked, and frequently underappreciated Starfleet officers who deal with second contact missions, malfunctioning holodecks, and bureaucratic red tape. From its very first episode, Lower Decks made it clear it was here to stay on the margins of Starfleet life, where the real action was happening just out of view. And that was exactly the point. But as the series progressed, something curious started to happen. These lower deckers stopped being punchlines and started being protagonists. They saved the ship. They led away missions. They developed story arcs as rich and emotionally resonant as anything in live-action Trek. The show stopped simply being a celebration of that TNG episode and started to transform it. Lower Decks evolved into a meta-narrative about rising through the ranks and changing the institution from within, a message that aligns beautifully with Gene Roddenberry's vision of merit, cooperation, and infinite diversity in infinite combinations. The reversal from shadows to spotlight. In its most recent season, Lower Decks has made its most ambitious narrative pivot yet. It flipped the structure of Lower Decks on its head. Instead of observing the lower deckers from the bridge crew's perspective as in the TNG episode, or seeing them as perpetual side characters in their own world, the Lower Decks show literally and figuratively promotes them, not just in rank, but in narrative power. Consider Boimler. Once the embodiment of anxious, regulation-quoting ambition, Boimler has developed into a confident, capable officer with his own command instincts. Tendi, the endlessly enthusiastic science officer, now leads her own missions and challenges outdated medical practices with wit and compassion. Even Mariner, the show's emotional heart and resident rule breaker, has matured, channeling her rebellious streak into leadership that's fiercely loyal and impressively tactical. The season's standout episode, which cleverly titled itself as a nod to TNG's Lower Decks, mirrored the same themes of mentorship, trust, and sacrifice, but this time it was the lower deckers who were calling the shots. Instead of being shut out of the briefing room, they were the ones doing the briefing. Instead of being judged, they were the ones evaluating the performance of new junior officers under their command. The storytelling lens had flipped. Why this matters? This shift is more than just a clever nod to continuity. It's a profound commentary on how institutions, even fictional ones, evolve. In classic Star Trek, leadership was portrayed as noble, almost mythic. Captains were infallible, their decisions final. That made sense in the context of the times, when viewers craved order and moral clarity. But in today's world, authority is constantly questioned, and institutions must earn trust, not assume it. By allowing the lower deckers to rise through the ranks without compromising their individuality or values, Star Trek is saying that institutions can change from the inside. And more importantly, that fresh perspectives are not only valid, they're necessary. Moreover, the fact that Lower Decks achieved this transformation within the framework of comedy makes it even more subversive. Humor has long been a vessel for critique, and Lower Decks has used satire to peel back the layers of Starfleet's often rigid bureaucracy. But the show never loses its love for the franchise. It isn't mocking Star Trek, it's challenging it to live up to its ideals. Echoes across the franchise. What makes this reversal particularly satisfying is how it resonates across other current Star Trek shows. In Strange New Worlds, viewers are seeing a young Spock wrestle with identity and emotion. In Discovery, a crew that was once seen as misfits has literally jumped 1,000 years into the future to redefine what Starfleet means. Even in Picard, legacy characters grapple with the consequences of their past decisions, often realizing that the next generation sees the world differently, and sometimes more wisely. In that sense, Lower Decks isn't an outlier. It's part of a larger narrative shift, one that's redefining what heroism looks like in the 24th and 25th centuries. Sometimes, heroism means disobeying orders. Sometimes it means mentoring instead of commanding. Sometimes it means stepping aside to let new voices be heard. Full Circle, a franchise that grows with its fans. By reversing the structure of its source material, Star Trek, Lower Decks has achieved something quite rare in modern television. It's matured along with its audience. Fans who watched Lower Decks in 1994 may have felt the sting of being overlooked, underestimated, or stuck under the command of people who didn't understand them. Now, those same viewers might be in positions of authority themselves and seeing their own struggles reflected in the new officers coming up behind them. This reversal is both narrative and emotional. It's not just about flipping